Local boards of elections are preparing to run a second primary election in August for state legislative races to determine Republican and Democratic nominees for the Ohio House and Senate. The unusual event of a second primary, which will cost the state an additional $20 million, is the result of a months-long battle over new state legislative district lines. Statehouse correspondent Andy Chow takes us through the Ohio Redistricting Saga and where it stands right now.
Ohio voters approved an overhaul to the state's redistricting process in 2015. 6 years later, the state put that reform process in motion for the first time as the Ohio Redistricting Commission convened. 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats took the oath of office and began drafting new state legislative district maps, drawing the lines for 99 House and 33 Senate districts. Democratic Senator Vernon Sykes spoke on this program with Karen Kassler back when the Redistricting Commission started, on his hopes that the new process would prevent gerrymandering.
How confident are you that the maps that will be produced will not be gerrymandered, and that Republicans will negotiate in good faith, and that Democrats, when and if they're in charge, will negotiate in good faith, as these 2 constitutional amendments said they would?
I am confident that there will be less opportunity for gerrymandering. The districts will be fairer. Now, how much fair is going to be dependent upon the negotiations that we have between the parties. But definitely, absolutely, they will not be able to gerrymander as much as they have in the past.
After weeks of public hearings, the commission, with only Republican support, passed its first set of House and Senate district maps. The maps, based on margins of Republican and Democratic voters in each district, maintained a likely Republican supermajority in both chambers. 3 groups filed objections to those maps in the Ohio Supreme Court: voting rights groups, community organizations, and a national Democratic group. All argued that the maps were unconstitutionally gerrymandered to favor the Republican Party and violated the new reforms. After several months of deliberation, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled in January that the maps were unconstitutional. That sparked what became a round of redistricting table tennis, with the Commission and the Supreme Court volleying between adopting new maps and striking those maps down for a total of 5 times. That included a map adopted by the Commission on February 24th, now referred to as Map 3. The map reflected the proportionality of Ohio's voters, splitting about 54% Republican and 46% Democratic. But a third of the Democratic districts were toss-up districts, which still gives the Republicans a good opportunity for a supermajority. Republican Senate President Matt Huffman said during the commission meeting that they needed to act quickly and get a map approved in time for the May 3rd primary.
All of the other options are bad. 2 primaries, bad idea, because I happen to suggest it and people let me know. Pushing back the primary, people are not in favor of that also. So I don't know, I think at this point, a while ago, days matter. At this point, hours matter.
But because of the stalemate between the Redistricting Commission and the Ohio Supreme Court, Republican Secretary of State Frank LaRose had to remove state legislative races from the May 3rd primary ballot.
The boards of elections can't conduct 2 elections at the same time. The voting machines are programmed for one specific election. All of the mechanisms of running that election are built on, sort of the 90 days leading up to the election, running the election, and the certification. And so what the boards of elections would have to do is complete one election before they begin the next one. If the decision was made to have that bifurcated primary, then the boards of elections would have to go all the way through final certification, which is about 3 weeks after the election. They'd have to go through post-election auditing, which is about 4 or 5 weeks after the election, and then they could begin the process of conducting a new election. You can't sort of run the 2 simultaneously.
As the saga dragged on, with the Redistricting Commission consistently failing to adopt constitutional maps, a group of Republicans filed a case in federal court. They argued that state leaders were at an impasse, and the federal court needed to step in. A panel of federal judges eventually agreed 2-1 with that argument, and once state leaders failed to meet a May 28th deadline to pass constitutional maps, the federal court implemented the unconstitutional Map 3. So that will be the set of maps used for the 2022 primary in August and general election in November. It creates 54 Republican and 45 Democratic House seats, along with 18 Republican and 13 Democratic Senate seats. 16 of those Democratic House seats and 6 of those Democratic Senate seats are toss-up districts. Catherine Terser with the good government group Common Cause says this is not what advocates envisioned when they voted for the constitutional reforms to prevent gerrymandering in 2015.
I think about like election night when I thought, hey, we have possibly improved the quality of representational democracy for decades. And then to go through and find that it is not enough to put good rules in the Ohio Constitution, that it's not enough just to have good transparency and a focus on making sure that the maps are not gerrymandered and having a metric. There's a metric that they can use. Sometimes it's called representational fairness. Sometimes folks call it proportionality, that there can literally be a metric in the Ohio Constitution, and that elected officials, including constitutional officers like the governor, can just simply avoid it, is heartbreaking.
Elections officials are getting ready for the August 2nd primary. Meanwhile, several lawsuits over the district maps and the subsequent fallout issues, such as candidacy filing rules, are still being deliberated in court. Andy Chow, Statehouse News Bureau.